there's a side of you that you hide. Not just from the world, but from yourself. The part that gets angry, jealous, bitter, or ashamed. This is your shadow. Not a flaw, but a hidden power. Most people run from it, deny it, or suppress it. But what if facing this darkness is the key to real strength? True transformation doesn't come from pretending to be perfect. It comes from owning the parts of yourself you fear the most. In this video, we'll explore how to face your shadow and turn it into your greatest teacher. Your shadow is not evil. It's unaccepted truth. Most people grow up being told what is right and wrong, what is acceptable and what is shameful. In this process, parts of the self are slowly buried deep inside, not because they are dangerous, but because society, family, or religion labeled them as undesirable. The truth is, your shadow is built from the parts of you that were never allowed to be expressed. It's not a monster, it's a reflection of your unlived life, a mirror of everything you've denied in yourself. And as long as you keep pushing it away, it grows in the dark. When you were a child, perhaps you were told not to cry, so you buried your sadness. Or maybe you were scolded for speaking up, so your voice became silent. Over time, these parts didn't disappear. They simply moved underground. They became the shadow. It holds your suppressed anger, your hidden envy, your unspoken desires, and even your creativity and courage that were never allowed to bloom. You begin to live only one part of your life, the part that gets accepted. The rest becomes invisible, but it's always there, waiting. And this is where the real danger begins. The shadow, left unacknowledged, does not vanish. It leaks out in strange ways. You find yourself overreacting to small things, triggered by someone's words, feeling intense emotions you can't explain. You judge others harshly, often for traits you secretly carry yourself. You sabotage relationships, avoid opportunities, and repeat patterns, all without understanding why. That's the shadow acting in disguise. It doesn't seek to harm you. It only wants to be seen. It wants to be understood, not controlled. But most people fear this part of themselves, so they run faster and suppress harder. Ironically, the more you try to act good, the more the shadow tightens its grip. Facing the shadow isn't about becoming bad, it's about becoming honest. You don't need to act out your dark impulses, but you do need to admit they exist. For example, acknowledging that you feel envy doesn't make you envious, it makes you aware. Admitting you have rage doesn't make you violent, it makes you real. This honesty is rare because people are taught to wear masks. The stronger the mask, the deeper the shadow. But what if you could take the mask off, just for a moment, and tell yourself the truth? What if, instead of fearing what you might find, you sat with it? The moment you accept your shadow, even slightly, it begins to soften. Its claws become hands. Its roar becomes a whisper. You realize it was never trying to destroy you. It was trying to protect a part of you that the world rejected. The child who wanted love, but felt ignored. The teenager who was angry, but had no outlet. The adult who was scared but had to pretend to be strong. These parts don't need punishment. They need compassion. This doesn't mean you let the shadow control you. It means you bring it to light. You write about it. You reflect on it. You notice when it shows up. And instead of reacting blindly, you choose consciously. You give space to your feelings without letting them own you. This is emotional maturity. This is psychological freedom. When you stop denying your inner truth, you stop living in fear. You become whole. People often say, just be positive or ignore the negative. But this advice can be shallow. True growth isn't about covering darkness with light. It's about entering the darkness with courage. You walk into your own shadow and realize it holds pieces of you that were lost. Your boldness, your boundaries, your passion, your depth, they were all buried with the emotions you tried to avoid. When you retrieve them, you don't just heal, you evolve. This process takes time. It's not easy to admit you've been wearing a mask. It's not easy to face the parts of yourself you've been told to hate. But when you do, something shifts. You become less reactive. You stop blaming the world for your pain. You start understanding why you are the way you are. And slowly, you begin to change. Not from force, but from awareness. There's immense power in seeing your shadow. It breaks the illusion of perfection and makes space for authenticity. You stop trying to impress everyone and start connecting with your real self. You stop competing with others and start accepting who you are. And as you become more honest with yourself, your relationships transform too. You listen better. You judge less. You love deeper. Because now, you're not just showing the world your filtered version, You're showing up with your whole self. This is not a one-time thing. The shadow evolves with you. New layers appear as you grow. But every time you face it, you reclaim a little more of your true nature. You realize you were never broken, just fragmented. And now, piece by piece, you're putting yourself back together. The shadow is not evil. It is a doorway. Walk through it, and you'll find strength, clarity, and depth that no amount of fake positivity can ever give you. You don't need to fear your darkness. You need to meet it. And when you do, you'll see, it was never darkness at all, just a part of you waiting to come home. What you suppress today becomes your inner enemy tomorrow. This is not just a psychological idea. It is a universal human truth. Emotions, thoughts, instincts, and impulses that are rejected or judged don't disappear, they wait. And when they are denied long enough, they find a way to break through, often in destructive, unconscious, or unpredictable ways. Most people think ignoring a problem makes it go away, but the human psyche doesn't work like that. What you run from grows stronger. What you silence gets louder in the dark. People suppress things for many reasons: fear, shame, guilt, cultural pressure. A child who is constantly told not to cry may grow into an adult who doesn't know how to feel sadness. A teenager who is mocked for expressing anger might become someone who bottles up rage until it explodes. A person who is raised to be polite all the time may end up unable to set boundaries, say no, or stand up for themselves. These examples are not random. They are real, and they're everywhere. Most people are not living from their full emotional truth. They are acting out roles, masks, defense mechanisms. The problem with suppression is not just that it hides emotions, it actually distorts them. Anger that is not expressed constructively doesn't fade. It becomes bitterness, passive aggression, or even physical illness. Fear that is never faced turns into anxiety that haunts your daily life. Guilt that is never resolved turns into self-sabotage. The very emotions people try to bury end up controlling their behavior from the shadows. You might find yourself saying, "I don't know why I acted that way," or "that wasn't like me," but it was a part of you, a part you didn't want to see. Suppression is not strength. In fact, it's the opposite. It's avoidance. It might feel powerful in the moment, like you're in control, but over time it weakens you. It creates a split inside you, a division between who you are and who you think you should be. That split is where anxiety, confusion, and inner conflict live. And the more you suppress, the more disconnected you become from yourself, from others, and from reality. Some people don't even realize they're suppressing. They just feel numb, tired, disconnected. They lose passion, creativity, joy. That's the price of burying your emotions. You don't just lose the bad feelings, you also lose the good ones. Emotional suppression is like turning the volume down on life. Everything becomes muted, colorless. You stop laughing the way you used to. You stop dreaming like you did as a child. And all the while, the shadow grows silently beneath the surface, waiting for the moment it can no longer be ignored. Eventually, suppressed emotions demand release, and when they do, they rarely come out gently. A small comment triggers an intense reaction. A minor rejection feels like deep abandonment. A moment of pressure turns into rage, panic, or breakdown. People call it overreacting, but it's not overreaction, it's overflow. Years of hidden emotion finally spilling out. This is the price of not facing what you feel. The more you suppress, the more you explode. The more you avoid, the more chaos follows. But there's another way, a more conscious path. Instead of pushing your emotions down, you can learn to sit with them, listen to them, understand them. You can learn to express them in ways that don't destroy you or others. This doesn't mean acting on every impulse. It means being aware of them, giving them space, honoring them as signals. Emotions are not enemies, they are messages. Anger says something feels unjust. Sadness says something matters. Fear says something needs protection. If you listen, you learn. If you suppress, you suffer. You have to make room for your inner life, even the parts you don't like. You have to be honest about when you're hurt, when you're jealous, when you're scared, not to shame yourself but to heal. Healing doesn't happen by pretending you're fine. It happens by letting the truth rise without judgment. That's where power comes from. Not from fake positivity or forced silence, but from real awareness. From standing in front of the mirror and saying, "This is how I feel, and I'm not going to lie about it anymore." People often believe they have to be strong by staying silent. They think expressing emotion is weakness. But the truth is, real strength is vulnerability. It's the ability to say, "I'm struggling, without falling apart. It's the ability to cry without apologizing. It's the ability to feel deeply without fearing it will break you. Suppression may look strong, but it's brittle. Awareness is flexible. It bends, adapts, heals. The mind and body are deeply connected. What you suppress mentally, your body carries physically. Chronic stress, fatigue, tension, digestive issues, even heart problems. Many are linked to long-term emotional suppression. Your body remembers everything your mind tries to forget. This is why healing isn't just mental, it's emotional and physical too. Letting yourself feel is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And when you start facing what you've been avoiding, something unexpected happens. You feel lighter. You breathe deeper. You sleep better. Your relationships improve. You start to trust yourself again, not because you've fixed everything, but because you're finally being real. You're not fighting your shadow anymore. You're listening to it. You're learning from it. You're letting it be part of your story, instead of pretending it never existed. This is not a quick process. You will feel resistance. You will be tempted to go back to silence. But if you stay present, if you stay honest, the shadow transforms. It becomes a guide, not a threat. It shows you what you need to work on, not to punish you, but to free you. Your deepest emotions, once feared, become your teachers, and through them, you discover something powerful. You are not broken, you are human. Every emotion you've suppressed is a part of your truth. You don't need to be afraid of it. You need to meet it, feel it, and learn to release it with love and awareness. Because when you do, you stop being a prisoner of your past. You stop living a half-life. You start living fully, with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole self. That is what freedom looks like, and it begins the moment you stop suppressing and start feeling. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be whole. That single truth breaks a lifetime of illusion. We live in a world obsessed with perfection. Social media shows curated images, filtered emotions, idealized versions of life. From childhood, many people are taught that they must be good, polite, positive, clean, and disciplined, no matter what they feel inside. This pressure to be perfect creates a mask, and behind that mask, a storm begins to form. The parts of you that don't fit the ideal, your fear, your rage, your doubts, your desires, don't disappear. They just get buried. They become your shadow. And the more you try to perfect yourself, the more you split from yourself. Wholeness is not about achieving flawlessness. It's about embracing the full spectrum of your humanity. The light and the dark, the strong and the weak, the confident and the scared. Every human being carries contradictions. You can be wise and confused, kind and angry, loving and selfish, all at the same time. The idea that you must always be good, always be positive, always be strong, is not just unrealistic, it's dangerous, because it makes you hide the parts of yourself that don't match the image. And when you do that, you don't become better, you become disconnected. The shadow grows in that disconnection. The more you reject parts of yourself, the more those parts begin to control you unconsciously. You find yourself snapping at people without meaning to. You push away love, because deep inside you feel unworthy. You chase success endlessly, but feel empty when you reach it. That's not failure, that's fragmentation, a divided self trying to function in a world that only accepts one half of who you are. Wholeness begins when you stop running from your flaws, and start meeting them with curiosity instead of shame. You ask, why do I feel this way? Instead of saying, I shouldn't feel this way. You pause when you're angry, not to suppress it, but to understand it. You admit when you're jealous, not to feed it, but to listen to what it's trying to tell you. Every emotion, every impulse, every reaction has a root. Perfection ignores the root and cuts the surface. Wholeness gets into the soil and heals from beneath. This doesn't mean you let every dark emotion rule your behavior. It means you bring awareness to them. You learn to respond instead of react. The more you understand your shadow, the less power it has to sabotage you. You can still feel anger, but it won't control your words. You can feel fear, but it won't stop your progress. You can feel pain, but it won't define your identity. That's the power of integration, not suppression, not indulgence, but conscious acceptance. Integration is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong journey. Every time you face a trigger, a fear, a wound, you have a choice. You can reject it and continue the cycle, or you can face it and begin to heal. This takes humility. It takes courage. It takes being honest with yourself, even when it hurts. But in doing this, you slowly reclaim the parts of you that were lost. You become more grounded, more aware, more complete. The goal is not to become a perfect version of yourself, but the truest version. And truth includes darkness. Truth includes contradiction. Think about it. How many people walk around pretending to be someone they're not, always smiling, always fine, always strong, while secretly drowning inside? That's not authenticity, that's performance. And the more you perform, the further you drift from your core. You start forgetting who you are underneath the act. But when you choose to be whole instead of perfect, something shifts. You stop needing approval for every action. You stop measuring your worth by how good you appear. You begin to live in alignment with your actual feelings, your actual thoughts, your actual truth. And that truth becomes your power. People can sense it. They trust it. Because realness is rare and wholeness is magnetic. This wholeness is where real peace lives. Perfection is always anxious. It fears being exposed, fears falling short, fears making mistakes. But wholeness accepts the mistakes. It understands that growth includes mess, that healing includes breakdowns, that wisdom includes doubt. When you embrace your shadow, you no longer need to prove your light. You just let it shine, naturally, honestly, fully. Wholeness also brings self-compassion. You stop punishing yourself for being human. You stop comparing your journey to everyone else's highlight reel. You begin to realize that your dark moments don't make you broken. They make you real. And that realization opens your heart. Not just to yourself, but to others. You become less judgmental, more empathetic. You stop expecting others to be perfect too, and you begin to see their wounds with more understanding. When you integrate your shadow, you become emotionally stronger, not weaker. You know your triggers. You understand your patterns. You learn how to sit with discomfort, without reacting in fear. You grow in emotional intelligence, not by reading quotes or practicing fake positivity, but by doing the hard inner work of meeting your own soul. This is not glamorous. It doesn't look pretty, but it's real, and it transforms you from the inside out. Many people fear this work because they think, if I face my shadow, I might lose control. But the truth is, you're already losing control by avoiding it. True control comes from awareness. When you see the shadow clearly, you no longer fear it. You work with it. You grow with it. You learn from it. It stops being your enemy and becomes your companion. It walks beside you, no longer behind you, waiting to pounce. And in that union, you gain freedom. So the question is not, how can I be perfect? The question is, how can I be whole? Wholeness is messy, it's raw, it's deep, but it's also real, powerful, liberating. You'll never find peace by chasing perfection, but you will find it by embracing all that you are, the light, the shadow, and everything in between. Because you were never meant to be perfect, you were meant to be real, and in being real, you become free. The very things you avoid, your fears, your failures, your flaws, often contain your deepest strengths and your true purpose. This sounds strange at first. Most people believe they will find their calling by doing what they love, following their passion, or visualizing success. But the truth is, purpose doesn't always show up in joy. Sometimes, it's buried deep in discomfort. The pain you've avoided your entire life might be pointing to the reason you're here. The mistakes you regret, the struggles you hide, the emotions you suppress. They aren't obstacles to your purpose. They are clues. Think about the experiences that broke you. The betrayals, the humiliations, the failures that shook your self-worth. Most people try to forget these moments. They want to move on, escape, act like it never happened. But the shadow remembers. It stores all that pain, all those feelings you never processed, all those truths you never told yourself. And inside that dark space lies something powerful, raw emotion, real experience, and the potential for wisdom. These are the things that connect you to others in a deep human way. They are the roots of empathy, strength, and authenticity. You don't need to be perfect to find your purpose. You need to be real. The shadow holds the real. It contains the version of you that was silenced, ignored, or misunderstood. Maybe you've always felt different. Maybe your deepest wound is feeling unseen or unworthy. But what if that very wound is what allows you to see others? What if your pain teaches you how to heal, not just yourself but others too? That's how purpose is born, not from running away from your shadow, but by walking into it and asking, what's here for me to learn? Purpose is not always glamorous. Sometimes it begins in the places that hurt the most. The man who was broken by addiction becomes the guide for those who are lost in it. The woman who felt abandoned learns to help others feel safe. The person who faced failure again and again becomes a voice for resilience. These people didn't find their strength in their success. They found it in their suffering. They didn't avoid their darkness. They turned it into light for others. Most people live on the surface of themselves. They chase comfort, attention, validation. They want purpose, but they don't want to face what's underneath. But true calling doesn't come from fantasy. It comes from honesty. The more honest you are about your own shadow, the clearer your purpose becomes. Why? Because when you face your shadow, you become fully alive. You stop hiding, you stop pretending, and in that raw honesty, you unlock a